during the first month of OEP, it's not as important to change that mindset, because now, quote unquote, we're fixing all of the problems from AEP. Does that make sense? Yeah. But the further we move into the year, your number one resource is not going to be the person on the other side of the phone. It's going to be a qualified person on the other side of the phone. So I don't know if everyone got these, but you should be tracking 4 different things. The first thing you should be tracking is the number of marks you pulled. From the number of marks you pulled, you should be tracking how many qualified people you have when you pull the marks. From the qualified people, you should be tracking presentations. From presentation, you should be tracking sales. Depending on what number you're struggling with will then help you identify what you need to focus on. So in the very beginning, what we want to do is start to build rapport, trust, and connection with the clients earlier on in the phone call. So how do you do it?
Stand out.
Oh, I thought you said stand up.
Authority.
Yep, stand up. Stand out. How do you stand out, Drew?
By standing up.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Be present, be engaged, be excited.
Okay. So what we focus on, right? We want to have our intention. Our intention then affects what we focus on. If we are just looking for the next person, we're going to be a little bit shorter with the client. We're going to then push them away, and we aren't going to create any value or separate ourselves from how we are different. This time of the year, you have to slow down in the beginning to quote unquote speed up and get a better result at the end. Now, because of the change in qualified prospects, the close rate should be lower. But if you're ripping 40 phone calls a day and closing at 4% or 5%, there's something wrong there. There's something wrong there. You are, one, providing way too much information in the very beginning. You're disqualifying them as soon as they tell you a dollar figure on a benefit you don't think you can beat. I see this and hear this all the time throughout the office. Ask about a food card, and then I walk by and they say, yeah, you're on the best plan. And let me go. Now, might that be the case? Yeah. Do you know that's the case? No. Might you want to at least see if they're qualified and see if there's any other place you can build value? So in the very beginning, the first thing, what should you be trying to do with the client? Build rapport. Build rapport, build value. How do you do it? Welcome, Cheyenne. How do you do it? How can you do it?
By asking questions.
Fair enough. So how about you just create a new statement? Let me just give you the answer. Y'all are tired this morning. You have to separate yourself from everybody else in the beginning of the phone call. What does everyone else say?
That's not wrong.
It's not wrong. No, who said that's not wrong? That's true. That's true. All right, you want to separate yourself and let the client know you do something different. There's something called linguistic programming and anchors. So if you're going on a date with somebody, they're an amazing person, but somebody's opinion that you value or maybe you don't value, they say a bunch of shitty things about that person. What's the first impression?
Negative.
Negative. Okay, vice versa. They're really a shitty person, but you hear a bunch of great things. What's the initial first impression? Positive. Okay, does that not mean they can change your mind? They can change your mind, but do you think it's easier or harder to then change the automatic preconceived bias you go into the situation with? It is. So in the very beginning of the phone call, you want to separate yourself from how you're different. So you might as well just say something along the lines of, Mrs. Jones, I do things a little bit different. Mr. Jones, I do things a little bit different. I'm not here to get you to change your plan. Is the goal in the beginning to change their plan? Is it to see if they're qualified?
Yeah.
To see if they're qualified. So might your statement change, because I don't want people, well, I'm not going to be a liar. My goal is to change their plan. Well, if that's what you're focusing on in the very beginning, that's a mistake you're making. The first goal is to see if they're qualified and to make sure they're on a plan that fits their needs best and that you can't add any value. Does that make sense? So if you ask enough questions and you can't provide an option that they think is in their best benefit, then what is it? Starts with an N and ends with a no. It's a no. So, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I do things a little bit different. I'm not here to get you to change your plan. What I am here to do is verify that you're on a plan that fits your needs best. If I find that out, I'll be the first to let you know. Is that okay? Why are you asking for permission?
For them not to feel like they're being sold.
Okay. Who's in control?
They are.
Who's really in control?
I am.
Why? Because you're asking questions, you're getting answers. So then here's the buy-in side, right? I'll be the first to let you know if, based on what you tell me, you're on a plan that fits your needs best, that there isn't any lower costs or any other benefits or programs available to you. But on the flip side, Rick, if you do qualify for any lower costs or additional benefits, would you like to let me know? Would you like me to let you know about those? Why do you ask the second question? That's a buy-in. So you essentially push them away. They say, yes, that sounds great. Then you ask a question, which then gives you permission to what? Re-engage. Does that make sense? So the very beginning should be fact-finding, not very quick to the marks. You want to get to the marks during AEP in the first 3 minutes, ideally in the first 60 seconds. Some of us just asked or stated, Mary, this is my name, zip code, power of attorney. I'm going to read a disclosure. I went to disclosure immediately, which is fine. Because what was the goal during AEP? Volume. Volume. So this time of the year, you need to build more rapport in the very beginning. That doesn't mean you talk about the birds and the bees, flowers, rainbows, and strawberries. You need to be intentional with what you talk about. You should be pulling as many marks as possible. Does it matter if they said they just did this? No. What does just did this mean?
We don't know what that means.
Correct. But when we're on the phone, oftentimes what we hear is this is a waste of my time. So then we let them go. Now, I'm not saying we just say let them go, but then our vocabulary changes, our mindset changes, our body language changes, and then we push them away indirectly. Our number one goal right now is to pull marks and get in front of somebody that's qualified. If you pull 10 marks and no one is qualified, do you think you might want to chat with maybe your team leader, your team manager to see if you're missing something called a special election period?
Yes.
It helps you, one, identify if things are outside of your control. Sometimes that happens. We do everything right and we just don't get the result we want. If mindset's one of the most important things, making sure you're tracking things allows you to have a positive mindset. And then on the flip side, it then allows you to identify what area do you need to work on. If you're pulling 10 marks, 9 people are qualified, and you're presenting 0 plans, your problem is creating value, one, in yourself and or the product. You're asking enough questions to find out what the client needs. It's super important to track what you do. What is tracked then can be changed. So unless you don't want to get any different results than you're getting right now, then you have to track what you're doing. Does that make sense? So Let's give me an example. If your effectuation was extremely low or lower than average during AEP, what might you want to focus on? Effectuation. Okay. How many of you like to feel powerless? So when we blame people, places, things, those people, places, and things have to change for us to gain any power back. So when you take accountability, you actually then get personal power. So if it's the leads, if it's the customers, if it's everything else but us, we have no control over changing the outcome. Personally, I don't like feeling powerless. Once you take 100% accountability for your results, then you can 100% change your results. It's not opinion, those are facts. Okay? So in the very beginning, don't be so quick to get them off the phone. Sam, you remember the phone call? Do you mind if I tell you a cheesy joke?
Yeah.
What's your favorite pasta? Okay, the lady was Italian. It took us 15 minutes to get the marks. Guess what? She hadn't changed her plan in a decade. Do you think we got the sale? Yes. How long did it take? How many loops did it take for us to get a social or MBI number? Sometimes you have to zig and zag. Sometimes you sell, you break away, build rapport, and then circle back. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The people that are harder to get information from in the beginning are the people you want to work with. I want my skill set to be so much higher than anyone else's that they talk to that I don't have to worry about them taking my client. Now, sometimes it's a numbers game. That's just the nature of the beast. We're in a volume business. It's a volume-based business. So you need volume as well, not just numbers. But I want it to be harder to get through the door because that person's more likely to stick on the back end. So slow down in the beginning. It also sets the foundation in the frame. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Separate yourself in the beginning. I sent out a sheet of 10 different openers on how you can separate yourself in the very beginning of the phone call. Pick one and use it. In Vancouver, one of the gals in Vancouver used the standard opening, and then when she got pushback, her follow-up loop was then the different opener. Does that make sense? You don't have to change the whole process, just change the vocabulary. Follow? Any questions on that?
No.
Let me leave you with this. Both heroes and cowards have the same feelings. What distinguishes them are their actions. Both heroes and cowards have the same feelings. What distinguishes them are their actions. What do you think dictates their actions? Their mindset. Change the mindset to create as much opportunity as possible to people you talk to. And then guess what? If they aren't qualified, thanks, but no thanks. You can't help them unless you sell them a what? An ancillary. So here's the transition. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you have an amazing plan. I want to change a darn thing. Something did catch my eye. Do you mind if I tell you what caught my eye? Yes. Awesome. Were you aware? Did the insurance agent explain X to you? That would be the maximum out of pocket or hospital stay. It's $2,500. Simple question. Did you have that money set aside to cover that bill? If they say yes, great. You know they can pay for the product. If they say no, great. You know they need the product. Now, I'm not sure if you qualify, but if you did, would you like to know about a program that actually cover that $2,500 for you? I'm not sure if you qualify. I'm not sure if you're interested or if you qualify, but if you do qualify, would you like to know about the program that actually cover that cost for you? Yes. Awesome. How's it work? You don't hospital indemnity this. You go. Basically, how it works is you go to the hospital, you get a check. That's how it works. You go to the hospital, well, not go to the hospital, right? Inpatient. You get a check. Does that make sense? You should be transitioning to an ancillary in every single phone call. It's easy money. That's all I got. Okay, cool.
Thank you, Blaine.
Yeah.
Thank you, Blaine.
My team downstairs. Let's go.
My team, I need you guys over here with your
Okay, great.
sheet that we started last week. Oh, bro. I was like, so.